Good morning, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem to our guests, Pashuva guests. Welcome to our viewers on Torah Anytime as well. I want to dedicate this year to the Hatzlacha of Ben Zion Ben Dosa. Him and his family should see tremendous Yeshuas and Hatzlacha in everything they do. I also want to dedicate this year to our dear friend, Rav Aaron Ovadia, who works tirelessly to make sure that this shiur is posted every single week on Torah Anytime and other shiurim as well. He is an energizer bunny. A man doesn't rest. His only goal in life is lehagdil Torah uleha'adira. And therefore, Mitzvah Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should shower you with abundance in both Ruchnius and in Gashmius to be Zoiche, in fact, to always have a part in spreading Torah worldwide. I also want to dedicate this year to a dear friend, Dr. Eliyahu Yakov Bachko, Judd, Dr. Judd. Special Yid. Somehow, even though he's a doctor and he helps a lot of people, he finds time to do a smicha, finish a smicha program, and therefore we're calling him Dr. Rabbi Eliyahu Yakov. And with that, he always finds time to learn when there is no time. And that includes driving in the car or wherever it is, and I think we all have to emulate him. We also all have to emulate the fact that he always runs away from kavod. Always doesn't want any recognition, even though he spends a lot of time. He's on the board of the shul for many, many years, and is involved in so many wonderful endeavors, and yet always running away from kavod, Baal Anava, and we have to learn from him. We also have to learn that he excels in kibudav, so there's a lot to work. Even though I just said what I said, I think, and his son happens to be sitting here, Dov Ber, Mitzvah Hashem, you should be zocher to be a tremendous pillar of Torah in Klal Yisrael. But I must tell you that I think, and I hope your father is not listening to the shiur, but I think your father is going to Gehenna. I didn't think you're going to like it, but what can I do? It's a Gemara. Kiddushin Pei Beis Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, Tov shebaroifim leGehenom. The best of doctors goes to Gehenom, and there's many different interpretations. But some explain. A secular doctor leaves this world after 120, goes upstairs, and they take out his file, and they say, well, you, to the left. And he starts feeling the heat. It's very hot over there. He says, well, why? I was involved in saving lives. Why HaKadosh Baruch Hu? He says, tell me, did you keep Shabbos? He says, Shabbos. I was involved in so many different things. I didn't have time, working the whole week. Tell me, did you put on tefillin? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm telling you, I was involved in saving your people. I didn't have time for tefillin. Did you learn Torah? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you don't understand. Down there, it's not shaykh to be a real good, successful doctor and to sit and spend time learning Torah. I couldn't. So why am I going to the left side, to Gehenna? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, just a minute. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes to Gan Eden, and he sees a beautiful chavrusa. The Rambam and the Ramban, both top doctors, but also, pretty big Talmidei Chachamim. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls, Ramban, come here. Please come with me to the gates of Gehenna. They don't go in, chas v'sholom. They stand at the gates of Gehenna. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu points to the Rambam and to the Ramban, and he says to this secular doctor, do you see? These were the top doctors, Tov shebaroifim. And yet, they found time not only to put on tefillin, to keep Shabbos, to learn, but even to write Sfarim. The Klal Yisrael learns and will learn until Bias Goel Tzedek Bekarov and thereafter. So apparently, you are able to be a top doctor and yet to be Shomer Torah Mitzvahs. So that's what the Gemara means. Tov shebaroifim, the best of doctors, sometimes, LeGehenom, he goes to the gates of Gehenom just for a few seconds to show everybody else it's possible. Therefore, I think your father may be called to the gates, only to the gates. He's not going to suffer, chas v'sholom, not going to feel any of the heat, just to show others it's possible. And therefore, Mitzvah Hashem, you with your beautiful family, Tziv Yasheina, Rachel Malka, Sarasima, and you, Dov Ber, and this shiur is dedicated by your mother, Dr. Chasya as well, in Mitzvah Hashem. The whole family should know only Bracha ve'Hatzlacha in everything you do. Vayira Yakov me'oid. Yaakov was exceedingly afraid. What was he scared of? I think we brought a few interpretations last year, and we've spoken about this, but some explain. To get ready for the war, Yaakov had to do something. He had to split the camp in two. And when Yaakov saw, There's going to be a division. There's going to be two camps, even though it's an oinus. They got to get ready for the war. But when Klal Yisrael are not united, it's dangerous, and therefore Yaakov was afraid. Look what happened here in the last year, where there is machlokes and we are divided. It's very, very dangerous. But Yaakov knew when we are united, it doesn't make a difference if it's Eisav, it doesn't make a difference if it's Ishmael. The hands of Eisav and the hands of Ishmael cannot rule over us while we were united. So when Yaakov sees we have to split him in two, that's where all trouble potentially can start, and therefore Yaakov was afraid. Now a tremendous chiddush. Not to be believed, sit tight and put on your seatbelts. Yaakov gives a very big gift to Eisav. What was he thinking? I don't know how much it was worth, but let's say with the worst, I don't know, all the animals together, $100,000. Why not give him something worth $1,500? Why spend all that value on Eisav? Not to be believed, Medrash Tanchuma. Vayishlach Siman Yudalef. I'm reading to you the language. I didn't make it up, it's in Tanchuma. Chashav ve'amar. Yaakov thought, and he said, well, wait a second. Nichsei chutz la'aretz, en ba'en bracha. The assets of chutz la'aretz, there's no bracha with them. Lechach haya mevaz bezan. And therefore, he said, couldn't care less. What's the difference? There's no bracha anyways in this money. So what's the difference? Let it goes into the hands of Eisav. He's not going to get anything. I'm not going to lose anything. And that's why Yaakov gave him a tremendous gift. If it wasn't for a medrash, we would say, interesting, strange, but medrash tanchuma. So Eisav meets Yaakov. Vayaratz Eisav lekraso vayechabkeu. He meets Eisav, he meets Yaakov, and he hugs him. And vayipol al tzavaro vayishakeu. Gives him a kiss. Rashi brings from the Sifri, Ba'aloisra, Omar Reb Shimon ben Yochai, halacha hi, beyadua Eisav soine leYaakov. What's the connection to the word halacha? Rashi says, you see from this pasuk that Eisav hates you. And by the way, all the Pashanim understood that Eisav means he's just a representative of all the goyim. It's not singled out to isolate it to Eisav. It's a Ishmael as well. Surprising, I know, it's very surprising. But it's Eisav, Ledoroisav, with all, with branches out, all the goyim are included. But what is the meaning to say, halacha hi beyadua she'Eisav so'inei Yaakov lichoira? It's divrei agada. There's no halacha associated with it. In fact, in the Yalkut Shimoni, the girsa is, halo Eisav soine leYaakov, not halacha. And some say that it was written Hey Lamed with an apostrophe, and somebody later on said Hey Lamed, oh, that's a halacha. So he took off the apostrophe, and when there was a little more money to spend on ink and there was more room on the paper, so they wrote the whole letter the whole word halacha, but really it was haloi. That's the version in the Yalkut Shimoni, and some versions of the Sifri itself that Rashi quotes is also halo. But to the version that we all bring, and everybody uses throughout the generations, halacha hi, it's a halacha. Beyadua she'Eisav soine leYaakov. What's the halacha?
Hello, just an hour?
Hello, as it's known.
You do a chipstick for one letter?
Sure, all the time. In yesteryears, if you look at Sfarim Kadmoinim, and not so long ago, there was tremendous poverty. Ink was extremely expensive. Paper was extremely expensive. If you look at old Sfarim, the whole Sefer is basically Rashi Tevis and acronyms, abbreviations of all kinds of things, and you try to figure out what were they doing here. And today, when the printers print out new editions, they break their heads trying to figure out what the abbreviation stands for, and many times they make a mistake. So again, look at Shalos HaTshuvos. In many Sfarim that came out about a specific topic, Shalos HaTshuvos, or about any specific topic. At the end, the author writes, since I have a half a page left, you know what, let me throw in a chiddush that I thought about, something totally not relevant, because there was tremendous poverty. Everything was expensive. So they wrote very, very, very abbreviated style, which today is not done. So Hey Lamed could be halacha, it could be halo, it could be many, many different things. So what is the halacha that comes out of the hatred of Eisav to Yaakov? From here, the Maharatz Chiyus proves that the word halacha can even be associated with agada. Many say no, because Shuvas Hagoynim, It says that in Divrei Midos and Musar, it's not shaykh to say the word halacha. It's Divrei Agada. But if Rashi decided to bring it, and it's a version that we have in the Sifri, there must be some kind of a nafka mina la halacha. What can be the nafka mina? So first of all, there's a few interpretations what the word halacha really means. The Emek HaNetziv on the Sifri there means pshutohu ki pshutoi. In other words, this is what was agreed and accepted in Beis HaMedrash, and the Yerushalmi uses all the time the words halacha, and so too is halacha, which means it's something which is accepted. Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal writes in different ways what halacha really means. Either it's something which is 100% accepted and nobody can dispute, or there's a halacha that stems out of halacha Eisav son of Yakov that really it's appropriate to kill him. Even though in Shulchan Aruch Yoredea Kuf Nun Ches Aleph it's paskin that one is not allowed to kill a nochi. However, this was said by Rashbi, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, and he is consistent with his shita in the Mechilta. Tov shebagoyim harog. That's the halacha that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai was saying. Another nafka mina. In Avodah Zarah Chav Beis Amud Aleph, we learned that you're not allowed to be beyichud by yourself with a nochi because they're chashudim al shvichus damim. Some things I translate, some things I don't translate. You understand why? Mimele, since Eisav soinele Yakov, they're telling you he hates you. Mimele, the nafka mina is you have to be careful not to be with him secluded. Another nafka mina, you can't rely on him. When you ask a person for some advice, and you assume that he likes you, so Mistama is going to give you good advice. But when you know for a fact that he hates you, so he's not going to give you good advice. Mimele, you can't ask him for advice. Menachem Zamba, Hashem Yikom Damo, was murdered in the Holocaust. He writes, what's the connection to the word halacha? What does that mean? So he says some people look for reasons. Why does Eisav hate us? What do they want from us? And they always try to justify it. But if you look at it, throughout history, it makes no sense. Because some people will blame Klal Yisrael for being capitalists, and some people will blame us for being too socialist, and some people will blame us that we stole their money, and some people will say the opposite, that we're parasites and we're a burden on society. And it doesn't make a difference what you do. You're too Haredi, you're too zealot, you're too modern, it doesn't make a difference. It's opposing opinions that just don't work together, which means this is a halacha. Halacha beyadua she'Eisav soine leYakov, and don't look for reasons, don't look for justification, because you cannot find any that makes sense. And the funny thing is that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai himself, who says this, is known to be doiresh tama dekra. We have a machlokes throughout Shas. When we see a mitzvah, can we darshan the reason of the mitzvah or not? But Metzia Kuf Tesvav Amud Aleph, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai darshans tama dekra in other places as well. So Davka here, Reb Shimon, who always looks for a reason, explains to you the reason. Here he says, don't look for any reasons. It's a fact. Eisav soine leYakov. Igros Moshe, he finds a different nafkamina la halacha, and he says, just like the halacha doesn't change, that's what the word halacha means. Something that doesn't change. It's kavua. So too the hatred of Eisav to Yaakov is something that doesn't change. And therefore, chas v'sholom, to try to cause fights, to cause eva, no good. Don't tell me things have changed. It's different times. It's not different times. It's the same Eisav. We're the same Yaakov. Eisav hates Yaakov. The crazy you place here, B'yonis and Eibshitz, and based on that, the Pardes Yosef finds another nafkamina mamish la'alocha. Can you sit on the same table and eat fleishiks while your friend is eating milchiks? Without a shomer, without different placemats, just sitting on the same table?
No. Yes.
Why can't you?
You want to have a separation.
Maybe I'll come to eat from him. Why are you saying you can? Your best buddy.
Your best buddy.
Your best buddy. You're going to take from him, he's going to take from you. And therefore you have to have some kind of a heker, a shomer, and that's why Avraham Avinu was leaning on the tree when he gave the malachim basar and chalav to make sure, that's one of the reasons, that one of the answers, how is it possible he served them meat and milk? He was making sure that there's going to be a separation. Or the different placemats. There's some kind of a heker that this is meat and this is dairy. However, if there's two people that don't like each other, two guests in the hotel, but there's no chashash that they're going to eat from each other, they'll be allowed. That's the halacha that comes out of the hatred of Eisav leYakov, that they are allowed to eat on the same table meat and milk. Pardes Yosef. Nafkamina, another one. Hilchos Shabbos. The Harei Besamim says, Chalila, there is a fire. Magoy comes to blow out the fire, put out the fire. What do we say to him? Should we yell, no, don't do it? Should we say it? No. Can we say, anyone who's going to put out the fire is not going to lose anything. We'll compensate him Motzei Shabbos, in other words. We're hinting to him. Are we allowed to say it?
Yes.
But why? Maybe he's doing it for you. He's your best buddy. He's your neighbor. And he's not doing it for himself to be compensated. He's doing it for you. And you're benefiting from a Chilul Shabbos. You shouldn't be able to do it. But since Halacha Eisav Soine Yakov, we are certain that he's doing it for himself. He couldn't care less about you. For all he cares, he would love your house to burn down. But since the Halacha Eisav Soine Yakov, he's doing it for himself, and therefore you are allowed to say those words.
That someone comes on Shabbos to help to save your house because it's on fire.
It's on fire.
So normally
you're not allowed to blow it out.
Tell them, get away, I don't need your help.
If it was a Jew, or if it's you can't, right? I'm not talking about pikuach nefesh Ayla. Just the house.
The house is burning.
The house is burning, and there's no electricity, and there's no gas, and there's no potential explosions. No pikuach nefesh. A remote house, secluded, no problem. You should allow it to burn. But when a goy comes, you're allowed to say, Kol ha-mechabe eino mafsid. If anyone who's going to blow out the fire, put out the fire, is not going to lose anything. In other words, I'll give you something Motzei Shabbos. In other words, since he's obviously doing it for himself, because Eisav Soine Yakov, you're allowed to do this. So after the fight, Eisav and Yakov, the minister of Eisav with Yakov, we are not allowed to eat Gid Hanashe anymore, the sciatic nerve. Why? Why can't you eat Gid Hanashe? So he fought, he got a little boo-boo, and because of that, we can't eat it forever. Well, what's the connection? We find different opinions, different reasons. Sefer HaChinuch says, this should be a remes to Klal Yisrael. That just like the minister of Eisav caused Yakov tremendous sorrow and pain, but ultimately he won and he prevailed, so too it will be in the future. Where the minister of Eisav, and again Eisav he represents everybody, not just Eisav, will cause Klal Yisrael much sorrow and pain and torture, as we see, yet this will be a remez that Klal Yisrael will prevail like our grandfather. The Hadars Kedim al Torah, and that's Torah from Baalei HaToisvis, and they say, Klal Yisrael accepted themselves never to eat Gid Hanashe. Mashal, it's a mashal to a person who had a migraine, always had a tremendous headache, and therefore he accepted himself never to eat from the head of the behema, in order for this should be for his healing. Sort of like a midah keneged midah type of thing. Chiddush. Chizkuni, and again, Hadal Zekenim al Torah Baalei HaToisvis with the second interpretation. They say this is a punishment. We should penalize the Shvatim, which means Klal Yisrael. Why didn't you escort your father? They were mighty. They were big guys. They were heroes. And the passage says, Vayivaser ish Yakov levado. Yaakov remained by himself. Why? Why didn't you escort him? There's a mitzvah to escort. And because of that, he was harmed. Who's responsible? You guys are responsible. And therefore you can't eat the sciatic nerve that you caused it to be damaged. Tremendous chiddush. And therefore this will cause Klal Yisrael to always be zrizim in the mitzvah of levaya, to escort a person when he is leaving. That's what the Chizkuni and Hadar Kenim al Torah says. But I'm sorry? They didn't escort Yaakov because the pasuk says that he walked by himself. He stayed alone. He remained alone. Vayivaser Yaakov levado. He was by himself. Why was he by himself? He should never be by himself. It's nighttime. How come he's crossing to get those little things that he forgot by himself? Why didn't they escort him? They were mighty people. Because they did that. He was harmed. He went into a fight with the minister of Eisav, and therefore they're responsible, so they can't eat it. So if the Torah...
How was he responsible? As far as I can understand, they were under the age of bar mitzvah at the time.
They were mighty individuals, even under the age of bar mitzvah.
So there's responsibility even when you're not.
When you're so big and powerful, and you're letting your father, the tzaddik, go by himself. So since the Torah says, don't eat it, we should ask, what do you mean, don't eat it? On Pesach, you want to commemorate something, so what do? You don't eat matzah? Eat matzah. It should be the reverse. Eat Gid Hanashe. Eat the sciatic nerve, and there you'll remember what happened. And the Torah says, no, stay away from this. It should be the reverse. When you want to commemorate something, Why do you eat sufganiyot, donuts on Chanukah? It's a mitzvah d'oraisa, right? You want to remember the miracle that happened with the oil. Why do you eat hamin tashin ozni aman on Purim? Because chas v'sholem if you don't, it's d'oraisa, right? Why? Because you want to remember. You commemorate things by doing active things, not by staying away from it. So why doesn't the Torah say, make sure thou shalt eat Gid Hanashe? A few answers. If you will be commanded to eat it, you'll only have the memory, the zeicher, when you eat it. So you're eating it 24 hours, 7 days a week, 354 days or 384 days on a leap year. Every single minute you're eating it. And the Torah wants you to remember it all the time. So therefore, if you're only going to limit it to the time that you eat, when exactly are you going to remember it? It's going to be very limited. Some say, Gid Hanashe only applies to a behemoth, not to a bird. How big is Gid Hanashe? It's barely enough for 2 people. So if they want me to eat it, that means I have to shecht a whole behemoth, which is barely going to be enough for 2 people. That's a tremendous, tremendous burden. It won't be able to do it. Every single day, to shecht a new behemoth, how does that work? Not everybody will be able to do it. So not everybody will be remembering the nes. Some say, if there's going to be a mitzvah to eat it, so maybe stamach, there's going to be a time. Once a month, once a year, I don't know when, once. And if we do that, it becomes a time-bound mitzvah. It's a mitzvah eshes azman grama. And the women will be excluded. And we want women to be involved in this as well. Mimele, there is no positive commandment, dafka, to eat it, because in negative commandments, thou shalt stay away from it, women are included as well. Some say, if we will say, go eat it, it wouldn't be apparent that you're eating it to commemorate the nes, because you're eating everything else as well. You're eating the entire behemoth. So how are you showing, how are we demonstrating that what you're eating here is to commemorate the miracle? Memele, don't eat this, eat everything else. And according to the opinion, there's an opinion in the Gemara, that en begidin noisen tam, there is no flavor, there is no taste to sinews. Memele, it's like etz be'alma, it's a piece of wood. So the Torah is going to command you to start eating wood now. Memele, there's a mitzvah is to commemorate through not eating the Gid Hanashe.
What came first?
The chicken or the egg?
Yeah, no.
The chicken.
He fought.
Look at the creation of the world.
Wait.
This question, by the way, it's an oxymoron. It's a joke.
Okay.
It's the chicken.
But he fought Eisav before the Gid Hanashe. So, in other words,
After the fight, when he was hurt by the minister of Eisav, the Torah says, that's it. From now on, we don't eat this anymore.
Retroactive.
Are you allowed to benefit from Gid Hanashe?
Some say yes.
And some say?
No.
And what do you say? Are you allowed to benefit from Gid Hanashe? Sure.
Sell it to non-Jews.
What about 2 Yoredea, Simin Samechei, the appearance of Rabbeinu Yoina, the Rambam, and a few others? What about the Rashba? You don't care about that.
No.
You sure? Because if you were to tell me no for a second. So let me ask you, you're saying no, let me ask you, how is it, or is it possible to put your kid on your lap? You're benefiting from Gid Hanashe.
You don't have to
Kid on your lap.
What's that?
You don't have to come vote for that.
Who cares? Shora Niskal is also be'ana. Do I care about your kavanos? If you're not allowed to benefit, you're not allowed to sell it, you're not allowed to do anything with it, who cares about the kavanos? What's that? Perfect. Who says you're allowed to walk? Baruch Hashem, you're sitting now. In fact, who says you're allowed to walk?
There are many times Olech, people that are Abraham and Yitzchak Yaakov, they are going somewhere, right?
Before Matan Torah. And Avraham Yitzchak before Yakov, that it happened to him. Vayishlach, not so pashut. If we're going to say it's Asul Be'ana Mamish, and there are many opinions like that, Houston, we have a problem. Because according to the Rashba, Gid Hanashe even applies to humans. You should have said, much easier to get out of his base. Oh, that's only in behemoths, not even in birds. But a Rashba holds that Gid Hanashe Asul Be'ana even by people. If that's the case, you have a problem putting your kid on your lap. So how is it possible? And you can't say, well, the issue only starts after one dies. When it's connected to your body, there's no problem. Why can't you say that? Because in Chulin Daf Tzadi Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, Lichoira, it's proven that Gid Anasha is Asur even when the Behema is alive. Because the Gemara asks over there, is Gid Anasha Asur because of Behema Tumeya? And the reason is because before Gid Anasha was started to form and to develop, it already had a name of a Behema Tumeya. It's an unkosher animal. So the Gemara says, if it wasn't like that, the Gid Anasha in fact would be Asur even when it's alive. But maybe we should say, that's what we have to say, that as long as it serves you with other things, it doesn't have a name on its own. It's not called a Gid Anasha. Only after a person dies, so we break it up to pieces and say, okay, this was the leg, this was this was this. But when it's connected in one unit, it loses its name. It doesn't have a name yet. Or that it's considered a Messiah ve'en bo mamish. It's not a real assistance that it gives you when your kid is on your lap or when you're walking. It's as if batel and it's meaningless, and therefore lichoira one will still be allowed to walk and to have his kid sitting on his lap. The Sefer Imrei Bina in Treif Simen Vav, he wants to prove Gid Anashe, even when it's connected to the other organs, is still allowed, because if that's not the case, how is it that a person who steals a show and sells it, how much does he have to pay? 4 and 5, right? But how is that possible? Because if Gid Hanashe is not allowed to benefit from it, it's as if he sold it without Gid Hanashe. And if you sell a behema without the full behema, without Gid Hanashe, mimeli, you're not chayav 4 and 5. From the fact that the Torah says that you are chayav 4 and 5, it means that Gid Hanashe is mutar even throughout life. So somebody who decides to hear this and maybe you should be machmir, so you should know Maran Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal Sar HaTorah had thousands and thousands and thousands of babies that were on his lap when he was a sandak. And if you'll say, okay, well that's a mitzvah shani, overrides an issur. Reb Chaim used to hold his grandsons and grandchildren on his lap, so there's no need to be machmir on this one. Lemaisa, the halacha is, you are right. Gid Hanashe is mutar behana. Even though we have different opinions on that, the two Yoredei Siman Samechei brings the different opinions. Gid Hanashe is mutar behana, and that's why you're able to sell it and to have other hanas with it. Let's jump for a second to Parshas Nasoy. I know we're not in the right chumash, but maybe some kind of sheikhus, maybe not. Parshas Nasoy, we learn about Birkas Koyanim. Who's the first person ever to receive Birkas Koyanim?
Depends what menu you go there.
Maybe he went to the nets. Avram. Who gave him a bracha? It was a Birkas Koyanim. Were you there?
No, I wasn't there. Nobody was a Kohen.
Oitzer HaMidrashim says, when the Malach gave a bracha to Yakov, it was Birkas Koyanim. So the first person ever to receive Birkas Koyanim is Yaakov Avinu. Another riddle, you did so good on the previous one. Another one, in this parsha, we learn about, Rashi brings us in Perek Lamedvav Pasuk Chavdalet, Ana Hirbia Chamor al Sus Nekeva Veyalda Pered. So Rashi says that Anna crossbred a horse and a donkey to produce a mule. So who comes from whom? A donkey and a mule. Who comes from whom? The mule comes from the donkey. Do we ever find a donkey coming from a mule? Impossible. You're saying? How is it going to help you?
His father was.
The father of Chamor. We don't know his name. I don't know his name. You know his name? Chamor ben Shechem. How does that help you? We're looking for a pered, a mule. A donkey that comes from a mule. Impossible. Be careful. First you got 2 points now, might be taking them away. Sefer Hayashar says, the grandfather of Chamor, not the father, the grandfather of Chamor's name was Pered. Pered is a mule. So you have mule, then you have his son, we don't know his name. Then you have his son who is Chamor, so you have a Chamor who is the father of Shechem. You have a Chamor, a donkey coming from a mule that was his grandfather. I'm not going to take those points away, don't worry about that one. Maybe a different riddle. I didn't talk about it, I know, it's like about a mule that comes from a donkey. Donkey comes from a mule. So last week we spoke about naming children for angels. Today we'll speak a little about asking angels for a bracha. Yakov Avinu says to the angel, when he says to him, let me go, Lo ashalechacha, ki im birachtani. I'm not going to let you go unless you give me a bracha. First of all, Chiddush, tremendous Chiddush. Rabbeinu Bechaya in Parshas Eisav says, ki im birachtani. What is this word, bracha? Baruch. Rabbeinu Bechaya says it's from the language of berich. Berich is a knee, birkaim, knees. Because the passage says, Kili tichra kol berech, as we say in Aleinu L'Shabeach. The one that everybody bows down to. Bracha is from the language of berech. And when Yakov Avinu, Rabbeinu Ephraim HaTorah, listen to this. Rabbeinu Ephraim HaTorah is one of the Rishonim. When Yakov Avinu says to him, Lo ashalechacha, I'm not going to let you go. Ki im, only if, berachtani, he was in essence telling him, I'm not going to let you go unless you heal my knee. You heard me. You wounded me. Heal my knee, and I'll let you go. Tremendous Chiddush. But, bepashtus, not bepashtus. Let's explain Rabbeinu Bechaya a little more, Rabbeinu Ephraim a little more. What does Rashi say? The angel was telling him, let me go. I have to go daven, I have to sing Shira during the day, and it was almost dawn. Let me go. And Yaakov says, what do you think, you're the only one who davens? I also have to daven. I'm davening nets in a few minutes. In Shulchan Aruch HaChaim, Siman Kuf Yud Beis Seif Aleph, we learn, when you bow at the beginning of Shmoneh Esrei, beginning and end, 4 times that we bow, the Mishnah Berurah over there says you have to bend your knees. So I also have daven. In others, Yaakov Avinu was saying to him, I'll allow you to go daven. If you allow me to go daven like a mensch, I'll let you daven like a malach. You have to say, you have to go upstairs to daven, yeah? Fine. Let me, by healing my knee, be able to daven like a mensch. I'll be able to bend down, and then I'll let you go. But bepashtus, he was asking for a bracha. Ask the Talmud Dekra, what are you doing asking for a bracha from a malach? It's a big problem. The Talmud Dekra, as a Chiddush, he says, this malach hurt him. This is a compensation. He owes him. So how much does he owe him? I don't know. How much is a knee worth now? Whatever it is. What's the doctor says, Yaakov Avinu, I don't want that money. I want a bracha from you. That will be your payment. You damaged me, you have to pay. How much do you pay? A bracha. How much is a bracha? That's what I want. That's why he was allowed to ask for a bracha from a malach, because normally you're not allowed to.
But is malach of his arch enemy?
And therefore?
You know, ask your enemy to give you a bracha?
Ultimately he's a bracha. Ultimately he's a malach. A bracha of a malach, don't look there. A bracha of a malach, if you're able to ask a bracha from a malach and you know he's able to fulfill it, he's going upstairs in a few minutes. Close to heavenly throne.
Even though it represents the enemy?
He's a shaliach of whom? Who does he work for? Who's the ultimate boss? But it was a compensation, now he has to. Because of this, some, tonight when we sing Shalom Aleichem, and some have a verse, Barchuni L'Shalom, we ask the Malachim for a bracha. This is based on Shabbos Kuf Yutes, where the Gemara says, when a person comes back from Shul Friday night, he is escorted by 2 angels. So while you're having here, I'm having them at my house, you know what, why don't you give me a bracha? But some say, how can you ask a malach for a bracha? Reb Chaim Volozhin wouldn't say this, Barchuni L'Shalom, because he felt it strong, turning to a malach, as if he has independent koyach, and as if you're davening to a malach, and therefore he wouldn't say it.
He's a representative of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Right, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself said, daven to me and not to my representatives. The Rambam explains in Ilchos Yesod HaTorah, what is it that caused people to serve Avodah Zarah? He says initially it made a lot of sense. They felt, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, can I turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Me? I'm going to turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm going to turn to his servants. So they bow down to the sun and to the moon and to the stars because they are servants of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And ultimately from that developed Avodah Zarah. So in theory it makes sense. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no, daven only to me. In fact, there's a Yerushalmi in Masechet Brachos. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if a person has any tzara, lo yemet saveach lo leGavriel velo leMichael. Don't start yelling to the angels, Michael and Gavriel, they're very powerful angels. No. Only daven to me. So what are you doing turning to the malach and says, why don't you give me a bracha? Turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu hears. Karav Hashem lechol korav. Lechol asher yikrehu be'emes. Yaakov Avinu knows that. Mimele, because of that, Reb Chaim Volozhin didn't say Barchuni L'Shalom. Some didn't say, Reb Chaim Volozhin also didn't say Seischem L'Shalom. What are you kicking out the angels? Let them stay, hang out. And if they're going to hang out and see a beautiful meal and a beautiful Shabbos table is supposed to be with some zmiros, they're going to be so happy they're going to give you a bigger bracha. So we're kicking them out. Reb Chaim Kanievsky, that was Reb Chaim Volozhin. Reb Chaim Kanievsky explains that they came for a mission. They came to see how your house is conducted Friday night. Once they finish the mission, what do you think they're hanging out here? They have other things to do. They're busy. Places to go, people to meet, and therefore immediately anyways they're going. If they're already going, say B'Sesem L'Shalom. Shabbos Malkita brings in the name of the Chofetz Chaim that when you say Shalom Aleichem, you say it to the Shabbos angels that are coming. That Seisrim L'Shalom is the weekday angels that are leaving. Anyways they're leaving, they're not going to hang out here. It's not their time. Their shift, they have a 24-hour break now, so they're going home. But you're saying Seisrim L'Shalom not because you're kicking them out, because anyways they're leaving. And the Bo'achem L'Shalom is for the new angels, the Shabbos angels that are coming. The Sefer Afikei Ai from Reb Steinman explains, why is it that at the beginning we say Malachi Hashares and then we switch it to Malachi Hashalom? Because when they're coming from shul with you, they're still Malachi Hashares. But when they come into the house and they see a beautiful Shabbos, a beautiful house conducted as it's supposed to be, then they become Malachi Hashalom and they bestow peace on the house. You want to add something?
Yeah, the question is that being the case in regard to the weekday or Shabbos one, you should say someone Shalom first. Take away the weekday and then bring in the Shabbos one. It's
nicer to first receive in the first guest and not say, I'm so happy you're leaving. Say Shalom. Okay, now I'll talk to the new angel. Wait. A little manners, a little, derech eretz. You can hang out for a few minutes. I'm reading the new guests. Shalom Aleichem, come in. Tzesrim L'Shalom, you have to leave. Okay, Tzesrim L'Shalom. But to kick them out immediately, a little derech eretz. Lichoira. The Teled Ada Eisav es Elifaz. Eisav's son's name is Eliphaz, right? Where's this name? Where did you get it from? Eliphaz. Says the Sefer HaChaim. Sefer HaChaim is the brother of the Maharal. Who was Eisav's god? Silver and gold. That's what he cares about. Paz in Hebrew is gold. So Eisav says, and he names his kid to make sure that he always remembers, everybody should remembers what Eisav is all about. Eli, my God! Paz is God. That's the only thing on my mind. It's the brother of Maharal. Rachel Imenu dies. So you go to her kever. And in general, you go to a cemetery. Can you do any mitzvahs in a cemetery?
No.
Why? Lo yeg larash. You're mocking those who can't perform any mitzvahs, and therefore you put in your tzitzis. You don't let them hang out. Many don't daven and even don't say tehillim in a cemetery because this is something the one who departed cannot do. So you're making fun of him. Look, I can do mitzvahs and you can't. Some are not choishes to daven or to say tehillim more accurately because ultimately, why am I saying it? Because of the nifta, so it goes into his or her heavenly account. He is the cause for my prayer. Mistama, mimele will be okay. Some are careful to say it, but within a distance of 4 amos. That's how Reb Chaim Kanievsky did it. What about tefillah in kivrei tzadikim? So Gesher HaChaim brings that Reb Shmuel Misalant would not daven in kever Rachel, only in the hallway. Why? He was afraid of lo yeg larash. But he writes that we saw many gedolim that go and do daven even inside. The Minchas Elazar says it's not shayach by kever Rachel. Rachel was before Matan Torah. And therefore, she herself, when she was alive, was exempt from all mitzvahs. So it's not like mocking her, look, you can't do mitzvahs. So she looks back at you and she says, anyways, I didn't have to do mitzvahs even if I wanted. All I did was that, I was tzadekis, I was a chasida. I didn't have to do it. It's not shaykh in kever Rachel. Lichoira, we should say the same when one goes to visit a grave of a woman, and he's a man. The mitzvahs that the woman is exempt from, like tzitzis, shouldn't be a problem. You're not mocking her, because anyway she wouldn't do it. It shouldn't be a problem. I'm just not aware of a cemetery that's an old women and a women's section as Nashim. I don't think it exists, except kever Rachel. But I don't think it exists. It's not going to be shaykh, but lichoira. But it's important to remember when one does go to a cemetery, not to go over the tremendous isur of lidrosh el hamesim. In other words, when we turn to the tzaddik and we ask from the tzaddik to grant our requests, it's a terrible, terrible thing to do. We turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and we say for the schus of the tzaddik that lies here, we ask then HaKadosh Baruch Hu should fulfill our request. And it's like, you have a connection with the vice president. He himself doesn't have so much koyach. The president is the one that has the koyach. But you say, listen, you're there in the inner chamber at all times. Do me a favor. Take my file, which is maybe on the bottom of the pile, and take it and put it on the top. So the president can attend to it first. You're asking the tzaddik, you're always inside, say a good word for me. But not that he has independent koyach. The Mishnah Berurah Siman Tav Kuf Pei Aleph, Seif Kotan Chav Zayin writes, Mekom Menuchas HaTzadikim, the place where the tzaddikim rest, is a holy place, and the tefillah is accepted there more so than other places. But, Chalila, that a person should daven to the dead people, should do B'schus HaTzadikim. And the Mishnah Berurah writes that you should surround the kever, and you should give tzedakah, and then ask for whatever it is that you want to ask. The Arizal wasn't choishesh that one daven to tzaddikim is a problem of lidro shel abesim, because in Brachos Yudches we learn that tzaddikim bechayeihem are called chaim, bemisasam are still called chaim. Tzaddikim, even when they're dead, they're called alive. Mimele, don't tell me I'm doirish el amesim. I'm not, because I'm doirish to people who are considered alive, as opposed to reshaim that even when they're around, alive and well, seemingly, they are called Mesim Brachos Yud Ches. The Mishnah Berurah adds something which I don't think is too known, but it's a Mishnah Berurah. One should not go to the same kever twice in one day. Kaf HaChaim says, unless you had the plan ahead of time. I'm going in the morning, I'm going to go again later in the afternoon, then you're allowed to. But if you didn't, says the Mishnah Berurah, one should not go to the same grave twice in one day. Mishnah Berurah. It's important to remember what the Gemara says in Holy Daf Yud Gimel, that one should not read what's on the grave if it's protruding, because then he can forget his Torah. That's why we don't do it in that manner on the gravestone. It's always it's either engraved or flat, but it's not doesn't protrude outward, because then it would be a problem, because one can forget his Torah. And it's important that women bichlal should not go to cemetery. I know this is very painful to some people who hear this, especially at certain times of the month, especially when they're pregnant. The women should bichlal not go. The Arizal was very, very careful about this and warned that women should not go to cemeteries. Sometimes it happens, if it's going to cause a Third World War, we allow the women to go. But if they come and ask, the advice is stay away, not for you. Aboy say a little Yana Diyoima. Because the klipos cling to them and it's kind of dangerous. Aboy say in Yana Diyoima, a terrible, terrible, terrible question. 2 months ago, Simchas Torah, Yemach Shemam v'zichram, the Hamas come to a certain house, and everybody knew already what was going on down there in the one of the kibbutzim. So the guy in the house, the father, saw what's going on. His wife wasn't there. It's him and his 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. Now he can escape. He has one way out, but there's only room. His only way is to take 1 kid with him. What do you say? Whom should he save? He has 2 boys, Reuven and Shimon, and he happens to like Reuven a little more than he likes Shimon. I know it's not politically correct to say that, but what can you do? That's the emes. He likes Reuven a little more than Shimon. He's also a girl. Rachel. Reuven, Shimon, and Rachel. Whom does he have to save? Terrible question. It should only be a question like this, la'alacha velo lemaise. But if a question like this arises, what do we do? Rachel first. Why? How many kids do you want her to have?
It's all the question. It's up to them, not me.
Good. And if she is a girl who cannot have kids?
You don't take that in the Heshbon.
Go back to the man.
Which one? Reuven or Shimon? He likes Reuven better. But both are his kids.
Take Shimon.
Take Shimon. Why? The one who doesn't, he doesn't like, he's not so crazy about. Why?
Because of the pasuk of that don't take from the firstborn, or don't give to the firstborn of the one you
פרשת קיסייצה. לא יבקר בן האהוב על פני בן השנוא הבכור, כי יש הבכור בן השנוא יכיר לעש לו פי 2 בכל אשר ימצא אלוהי. חידש. But what if he only has 1 wife? This applies when you have 2 wives. So you're saying Rachel, you're saying Shimon. Anyone thinks about poor Reuven, who actually happens to be a great kid and his father loves him the best? Or no? Reuven's not shaykh. What's that? Moshe, who's not here now. And you know what? Reuven is the Bechor. Or Shimon. Because of the fact that he is the Bechor, you want to prioritize him? It says you have to give him double a portion of the inheritance. Who says you have to save him first? Where'd you get that from?
Isn't this the same question about Akiva in the desert when there's any of early on?
You're sending us Bab Metziah Samech Beis Amud Aleph.
That's yourself.
Two people are walking in the desert, and one of them has some water, and not enough for both. If both drink, both die. If one drinks, he will live. So Ben Petura says, you have to split the water. And don't see how your friend dies and say, wow, I'll take care now. Until Rebbe Kiva came and he taught, it's your water, you drink it. So the father is going to save himself, there's no question about that. But we're asking about others, Reuven, Shimon, and Rachel. Who comes first?
Rav, earlier we said that the Avot kept all the mitzvot. Is that not include the Imahot?
It does include the Imahos. I know a sefer called B'darkei Avostu Chalakim, if everyone is in the making, that discusses this in length. And the Imahos was also given the Torah, but what's the connection to our question? Is it relevant to our question?
What you said earlier.
Oh, okay, no, I'm asking now. Who do you want to save, Reuven, Shimon, or Rachel?
The boys more than the girls.
Mitzvah ve'oiseh. And the woman is not mitzvah ve'oiseh and her mitzvahs?
No, this was us. She has more. A man has more than a woman.
How many mitzvahs does the man have more than a woman, you know? There's 613, right? Mitzvahs are exempt from the time-bound positive mitzvahs. That's, by the way, just trivia. 30 mitzvahs. He has 30 mitzvahs more than her. And you said because of these 30 mitzvahs, he should come first. Fine. So we're kicking Rachel away, sorry. And between Reuven and Shimon, who do you want to take first? Or, what's that? Either one? A goyrel. Want to do a goyrel? Toss a coin. Yep. You have a coin? Rabbi said the answer is found in our Pasha. Eisav is coming. Lehavdil, yeah? Hamas are coming. What is Yakov going to do?
Divide his camp.
Vayasem es hashfachos ve'es yaldeihen rishoina. He puts the shfachos and their kids first. Ve'es Leah and her kids right behind. Because he loves them a little more than he loves the shfachos. Ve'es Rachel ve'es Yosef. All the way in the back. Rashi, 3 words. Achron, Chaviv. He loves, apparently, Rachel and Yosef more so than he loves the rest, so they go in the back. Excuse me? Because you love them more, so you're willing to endanger everybody else? What are you doing? That's our question, Mamish. No?
Because Rachel didn't have children.
She had Yosef. But that's not what Rashi says. Rashi says the reason is Achron, Chaviv, because I love you more. That's what Rashi says.
He was also destined to have Binyamin later. He made it on that.
So that could have been another answer in Rashi, but Rashi only brings one answer. Achron, I love you, you stay in the back. You think Rashi is the only one? Targum Yonasan ben Uziel. Yakov said, if Eisav is going to come and hurt these kids and kill them, let these be first. And while this is happening, we're going to stand up and going to fight him. In other words, he's sacrificing the others. Why? Rachel, Yosef. Ibn Ezra says, listen to a language of the Ibn Ezra. I'm quoting to you Ibn Ezra. Ulai himaltu. Maybe Rachel and Yosef will be able to escape. Why? Ba'avur ahavasoi oisam. Because he loved them. Not enough? Radak. This is all Rishonim. Says the Radak. Maybe Esav's anger is going to quiet down when he kills the first ones and he's going to leave over the others. Rachel and Yosef will be spared. Why? Because I love Rachel and Yosef. What? Because you love them? You prioritize them? It's mamash shayla. What's that? Pilei ploy.
But don't we? It said that he only went back to Eisav because Yosef was strong enough to stand up to him. When he saw that Yosef was strong enough and said, I'm ready to protect my mother and kill Eisav, right? Is that there's an opinion that says
You're totally willing to disregard Rashi, Targum Yonasan, Ibn Ezra, Radak. You say, nah. Achon Chaviv. Rashi.
No, but that's why he went back to Eisav, because he saw that Yosef was...
Ibn Ezra. I'm reading again. Ulai Yimaltu. Maybe Rachel and Yosef will be able to escape Ba'avur Ahavaso Oisa, because he loves them. That's the reason. He's showing him.
But yeah, basically, let's say that the Russians earlier on does speak about Vayishlach Hava. Yosef has the ability.
It's a future promise based on a Navi.
Huh?
That's a future promise based on a Navi. And by the way, when Yosef stood there, he protected Rachel, even though he was tiny, he was small. A miracle happened. Or Chaim Kodesh brings it and others. And he expanded. He became so wide and big that he covered Rachel and Eisav wasn't able to see her. Pilei ploy. You do something l'shem shamayim, you get siyad lishmaya. It's just like Batya, the daughter of Paro, reaches to the basket when it's so far away, it's not shayach. But you do something, you're going to get siyad lishmaya, and her arm extends 60 amma. Fine, but what was Yakov thinking? If Steinman says something which is mamish startling, I don't think you'll be able to digest and accept it. But if Steinman said something. When you have a pear and an apple in front of you, they both are the same bracha, right? They both are shalem, they both are beautiful, and none of them are one of the 7 species. What should you eat first? What bracha should you say? Should you say the bracha on the apple or on the pear? Chaviv! The one you like better. So the Pshtam, that's no different. Chaviv! Chaviv is a maila that we prioritize. It comes first. When everything else is equal, why not? Very hard to digest, right? But the Ralbag says the same thing. The Ralbag is one of the Rishonim. Some say it's the grandson of the Ramban. And the Ralbag says, when a tzara comes, you have to choose the lesser evil. You have 2 tzaros in front of you, choose the lesser of the evil. And therefore, Yaakov Avinu took Davka, Rachel, and Yosef, put him in the back, because he was afraid that he's going to lose them all, so at least he's going to have what is more dear to him. It's Mamash Steinman's answer. But it could be that this discrimination or prioritization, depends from what angle you look at it, is because Yaakov Avinu, we know, was very, very strong. He was a hero. And he could flip the stone off the well. We saw it last week's Parsha, just like a person takes off the cap off the bottle. That's what Rashi brings from the Medrash. So it's not like he's saying, I'm going to sit here passive, and whatever happens, happens. No, he's going to fight. So he puts them first, and then he's going to fight, which is different than our case, that the guy is running away. And when he's running away, he's not going to fight. He just wants to discriminate between a person whom he loves more, Reuven, to Shimon and Rachel. So lichor, it's a problem. Rabbi Shaya Bardaki was one of the Talmidim of Reb Chaim Volozhin, about 220 years ago. He came to Eretz Yisrael. He was called one of the Nekiyei Hadas in Yerushalayim. For some reason, the planes weren't working at that week that he came to Eretz Yisrael, so he had to take a boat. And when they came not too far away from the shore, the boat had a problem, and it's going to sink down. Everybody jumped off, and he started to swim. He had his son and daughter with him, and he told him, hop on. And he's swimming, and he's swimming, and he's swimming, and he's swimming, and doesn't have any more koyach. And he's swimming, and he's swimming, and he's swimming. He doesn't have any more koyach. At one point he stops. And he says to his daughter, listen, I'm so sorry. I don't have more koyach. The halacha is, Shulchan Aruch Yoredea Siman Reish Nun Beis Seif Ches. When it comes to Hatzalas Nefashos, you have to prioritize the man over the woman. We don't have anything against women. But he's more mekudash, he has more mitzvahs. 30 more. Just like you have to prioritize the Kohen over the Levi. We don't have anything against Levi, but the Kohen has more kedusha. The Levi over Yisrael, he has more kedusha. So too. You have to prioritize when everything else is equal. A man and a woman, a man comes first. Rabbi Shaya Bardaki turns to his daughter and says, I'm so sorry, but you have to let go. I have to leave you here. Otherwise, all 3 of us will drown. I don't have more koyach to continue. His daughter looks at him and starts yelling, Daddy! Daddy, help me! You're the only father I have. You must help me. You must help me. And somehow he hears his daughter yelling, and he got a second wind. He says, hop on. And he starts swimming, and he swims, and he swims, and he swims, and somehow he was able to make it to the shore. He got there, and he passed out. A few minutes later, came to, he opened his eyes, and he said to his children, you should know, if any time in life, if ever in life you will encounter a trouble and you feel this is it, there is no hope, you should do what you just did before. You should start yelling, Daddy, Daddy, you must help me, you're the only one who can help me, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help you. So Lichoira, Rachel, sorry, we can't save you, because she comes last out of the three kids. Because a man and a woman, a man comes first, he has more mitzvahs when everything else is equal. Then comes, between Reuven and Shimon, Lichoira Reuven, because he likes him more, it's Ma'ila v'chaviv, unless we'll say it's different than Ma'aseh of Yakov, and then we'll have to do a goyrel between them. That will be the answer to our question. The Gaon Mivilna says a different answer why Yaakov prioritized Rachel and Yosef. You think he put him in the back because he loves them more, so he wants to make sure they have extra shmira. No, exactly the opposite. The shfachos have extra shmira. Why? Even though in the front line. Because the pasuk in Koheles says, Perek Gimel, pasuk Tesvav, Ha'elokim yevakesh es nirdaf. HaKadosh Baruch Hu seeks to help those who are pursued. Compared to the kids of the imahos, Leah and Rachel, the children of the shvachos are considered pursued, nirdafim. People used to make fun of them. And therefore they have anyways a protection, a heavenly protection. So in order to balance things out, to allow Yosef and Rachel the same protection that the front line has, he put them in the back, and now everybody is equally protected. Tremendous chish from the Gaon Mivilna.
We heard stories similar to what went on October 7th. He was being attacked. He saw the Arabs coming with their guns blazing. He yelled, Kodesh Baruch Hu, and the Arabs went over the house. Never touched this house.
Yeah. Many miracles. If somebody doesn't see Hashem in this Maaseh from the beginning to end, blind or a shoite, or both. Let's say something in with Chanukah, a riddle for Chanukah. We know the halacha is, and that's how we all do, Moisif ve'hoilech, like Beis Hillel. We move up. First night 1 candle, second night 2 candles, therefore we always move on and we add more candles. Beis Shammai say, Poiches ve'hoilech, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Can it be that the first, second, third, and fourth night you light, as we always do, like Beis Hillel, Moisif ve'hoilech? First night 1 candle, second night 2 candles, third and fourth night. In the fifth night it switches. And now for the next 4 days you're going to light like Beis Shammai. Poiches ve'hoilech. Can it be? Not everybody together. I can't hear when you're yelling at me. One on one. What do you normally light on the fifth night?
6 candles.
5 on the fifth night. Forget about the shamish, the mitzvah candles. 5 in the 6th, 7th. And I'm saying, can it be that the first 4 nights you'll do just that? 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th night
3, 2, 1.
you'll do 4. The 6th night you'll do 3. The 7th you'll do 2, and the 8th night you'll do 1 candle.
The Allah is like a Beis Shammai.
Allah is like Beis Hillel. We rule. That's what the Shulchan Aruch paskins. Says the Gaon Mivilna in his Siddur that when Mashiach comes, Allah will be paskin like Beis Shammai. So if Mashiach comes, I hope he comes much before that, still another 2 weeks. But if for some reason he delays and only comes on the 5th night of Hanukkah, so the first 4 nights will light like Beis Hillel, like we always did. The 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th will light like Beis Shammai, Be'ekov, Be'yameinu, Ve'noimar, Omen. אחינו כל בית ישראל נשואים בצור ובשיב יום דין ביום ובן ביבשה. המקום ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצור לרווחם אפילו ליהו משיבות לגאולה אשתא בעגלו ובזמן קורי ונאמר אמן.